Hey guys, LFK Accountability here. This is going to be a quick introduction to why I went public. It really revolves around one case that I witnessed downtown. I started out just doing things and submitting them into the police, compliments, complaints, a few minimal things upheld, but nothing serious. And I didn't witness really a whole lot serious. I saw some good behavior. Saw a few people that didn't like us filming. By and large, they didn't handle it too poorly. You know, it's not like what you guys see on San Joaquin's channel or DirectD. I mean, it's not that kind of explosive situation generally. But anyway, the reason I went public was because of the incident that we're going to talk about here. I actually submitted complaints on what I witnessed downtown May 5th. There was an individual that was being arrested and wasn't treated what I considered to be respectfully or within the bounds of the law even. As I go down through this, I'm going to pause every now and then. If you guys want to pause your video, you'll be able to read your screens a little bit better. But I'm not a videographer. Learning how to be a journalist. If any of you guys want to do this a little better, I'll give you all the docs and all the video and you can have at it. I just wanted to get out there so that people can see it. The three people that I want to see it, I hope that they'll see it and decide to actually ask a few questions, because if nobody asks questions about this, nothing changes. We have a police department that's recently had a study done to find out what opportunities exist, what hindrances are there. And one of the things that came from that study was that our police department is not very trusting of our city leadership and the direction that they want to go. The reality is these police are employed by the city. So where city leadership wants to go, that's where the police department needs to go. City leadership is voted in there by the people, and they were voted by a majority of the people in whatever consensus they use in that vote. But those people are our representatives. They are we the people, and when we the people say this is how we want things done, that's how it should be done. The police department and their union has protected a bad officer around here for a long time that's recently been gone. But it took documented evidence and actual civil cases being filed against him before anything happened, and he was allowed to resign. I don't know that that's all acceptable. So let's get into this. Like I said, I'm going to scroll down and let you guys read. 700 block of Massachusetts had a young man that was restrained. Looked like it was probably a homeless guy or a vagrant or whatever you want to refer to him as, trespassing, possibly creating a disturbance. 3 officers had him calmly restrained. He complained of back pain when they tried to lift him up. They recognized it, and they acted appropriately in the beginning with this, waiting until the other officers arrived. Just let the situation be calm. And this was for over 2 minutes. You're going to see in the video at the end. Once the other officers arrived, within 20 seconds, they'd not only discussed getting out the wrap bag, and the wrap is I don't even know how to describe it. It's a restraint that basically minimizes any possible movement you can make. And, you know, it's used for people that are being violent and spitting and things like that. I mean, they got hoods and stuff like that that they can use. But in any case, this guy was not fighting. He had vocally protested being arrested, had talked about his back being recently injured, and the 3 officers were recognizing things. But these senior officers decide to roll him over, and one of them goes knees down in his back. And you guys can read this stuff as I'm going. You'll see in the video that the only resistance that he began to provide was when that knee went in his back. Up to that point, even when they were lifting him to roll him over into the sidewalk and put him in a prone restraint, he was shouting out, "Relax, relax." He wasn't, you know, kicking or moving his arms. He appeared to be fairly still, letting them pick him up and move him. The 3 officers that were there, I fault them for not stopping Daubert. They should have said something, in my mind. They should have said something to the other officers. Hey, this guy's got a back pain. Officers aren't in a position to make medical decisions, and they shouldn't be expected to. If there's a medical concern that gets brought up by the suspect, by a witness, anybody, it shouldn't be up to the officer to address that or to ignore it. It's up to him to get in the right expertise to handle that. Officer Daubert was the central part of the complaint, and he was the one that I felt used excessive force, and you'll see in the video, and you can make your own determination. Even after what I would call excessive force, they still plan to wrap this guy up. Sergeant Neff, some of you may have watched the other video. He's the one that supervised this arrest. Didn't really... I don't even know what to say on Sergeant Neff, so I'm just going to move on from there. So anyway, we go on down here. I submitted complaints on all three of them, and these emails are correspondence between myself and Major Squire, who was formerly Captain Squire. I believe he's in charge of the Office of Professional Accountability. I'm not clear exactly what his job title is. In any case, he's been my contact for most of this. I asked him on June 1st what the status of the complaint was. Had it been reviewed? Will there be an investigation? Has the investigation been initiated? He questions which complaint it is, and I confirm to him which one it is. Now again, I'm going to have to scroll down here because the emails go from bottom to top. And I apologize for that again. I'm not a videographer. I'm just trying to get this information out there. He tells me it's been reviewed and in the process of being finalized. Now there's been a miscommunication about what reviewed means, what investigated means. Some of us lay people out here in the public confuse the two, whether it's reviewed or investigated. And when the most recent report came out about the 2020 statistics, I noticed immediately that complaints that I had submitted had to have been summarily dismissed and not included in their reporting. And when I asked how that was done, Major Squire explained to me that those were handled through the chain of command, and I can't even remember the different things that he told me about why they weren't investigated. They were just handled. And that's one of the things that needs to change is we can't have OPA just deciding, okay, we're going to handle this one internally and move on. In this case, it says he's been reviewed, investigated, and the write-up's being completed or finalized. Now again, this is on June 1st. Thank you. I want to receive documentation by mail. Have a good week. So we go on down to the next one. And this is on July 9th. And more than a month ago, and about 30 days after the complaint was submitted, Major Squire told me that the write-up was being done. Now, more time had passed since that email than the time it took to get to the final write-up portion. So I asked for another update, and if it's not available, advise me when it'll be available. Now, again, here we talk about a minor change in the report. I'm not sure what that was about, and I'm sure that I misquoted it as being something being rewritten. In any case, here we are, July 12th. This is Monday, following the Friday that I sent the email. But we are more than 2 months away from the date of the occurrence, and we are more than 40 days away from the time that they said the investigation was complete. It took over 40 days to get to the write-up portion. Okay, so now we go on down here. I had sent Major Squire, as I have in the past, compliment on officers, and I had sent him one on Sergeant Hyatt. You guys may have seen the video where he didn't recognize me as a threat, treated me with respect, paid attention to his job, and didn't really get into what I was doing. You know, basically ignored me, which is what he's supposed to do. You know, I tried to explain to Captain Squire that I'm not that asshole that he thinks I am, okay? There's some issues here, and it really truly feels like he doesn't want to acknowledge those, at least with me. And if it's not with me, then it needs to be with somebody, because these things need to be addressed. Okay, I asked him if he's interested in a reset. Now, it's interesting that in his response, and I'll go down here. please find the attached letters. This is his response now to the Sergeant Hyatt thing. And he uses that as a response to send me the 3 letters here. Please find the attached letters regarding your complaints against Aubert, the other 3, and Sergeant Neff. Tells me law enforcement is a tough profession. We get that, and that's not an excuse if that's what that was supposed to be. In any case, I'll get down to those documents here in just a moment, but they were all exonerated or dismissed or found unfounded. I asked, was there a policy deficiency that allowed the man's information regarding his back to be ignored and applying force to that part of the body? And I requested an open and frank discussion of this incident, and your decision is necessary. I truly don't understand how they could get to this was okay. And you're going to see in the video. Specifically, I resent this, I want you to educate me on how LPD's policies allow behavior that falls outside the use of force continuum. Now, we talked about the use of force continuum quite a bit during the George Floyd trial. Now, we all have learned that that means the minimum force necessary to achieve. Now, I want you to pay attention here what happens in this email, because, okay, actually, these are the 3 exoneration letters, and I mean, here, I'll stop here. You can read the one on Daubert. And given the totality of circumstances, I mean, that's the open and frank discussion that we need to have. There needs to be an understanding of what the totality of circumstances are that allowed this decision to be made, given what was witnessed. Now, granted, if none of that had ever happened, I don't need to hear from him. But something happened downtown, and we need to know a little bit more about what the totality of circumstances are that allow an officer to put knees down on a man that's complaining of a broken back or back injuries. Okay, now going back to this email response, I want you to pay attention here. It looks like it's a little longer than I thought. He says, we do not teach the use of force continuum. Gosh, I apologize again because this is a little difficult given the fact that I'm not a videographer, okay? He basically talks about that he couldn't find the use of force continuum in their policy manual. And it really felt to me like that was a way of mixing words. I mean, he knew what I meant, and he could have talked about it. But he chose to mix up the words and play that little word game. Now, that's how you alienate the citizenry. Now, we don't know the words that you use in your profession every day, every single time. You need to allow us a little latitude and work with us on that. It's just like talking to somebody that speaks a different language. You allow a little compassion there and try to understand what's going on and actually communicate instead of just shutting things down. But again, in their use of force here, it says, officers shall only use the amount of force reasonably appears necessary given facts and circumstances perceived by the officer at the time of the event to accomplish a legitimate law enforcement purpose. And that's pretty clear. It means minimum force necessary. Okay? So we go on down, and I ask him, this is the other part of it where he says, I cannot find use of force continuum in our policy. There's no reason for that kind of comment. I mean, you knew what I was talking about, man. So I ask him specifically, can you explain what circumstances that your officer were aware of that would have caused them to believe a use of force was necessary? You know, anybody who sees this video, and many of you that saw the video before I took it down, and it's going back up after this. I took it down to do this. Any of you that saw that know that there's questions there. I mean, they can say it's okay, and that'll be fine, but we need a couple answers first before we accept that it's okay, because it doesn't look okay to us. Is there something that I did not witness that would change the perception I have? That would be a more frank and open discussion. Okay? His response, I do not believe a back and forth by email will be productive. If you would like to continue this conversation, it would need to be over the phone in person, over the phone or in person. Okay, now that sounds all great, but guys, if you've ever sat down and tried to talk with Captain Squire, Major Squire as he is now. I got so used to calling him a captain. I said this in the email to him. He is literally masterful in the art of controlled and redirected conversation. He will not discuss hypotheticals. And one of the things I want to point out about that is that police on the street use a hypothetical to argue that every citizen may be a suspect. Think about that for a minute. But this man will not discuss hypotheticals in conversations about policy. When I asked him about behavior of Sergeant Byrne, when he made some threats about our videos and about us video and trying to get us arrested and things, you know, he was okay with that, and he wouldn't deal with any kind of hypotheticals in discussion that. But again, the officers on the street use hypotheticals every day. He's been very straightforward with me. I wouldn't consider this email string very straightforward. He hasn't answered any questions. He wants to get me into an in-person sit-down discussion, and I can record. Great. It's not that I want to record, and I think I say that in the next email. Yeah, let's go down here because I'm going to show you the beginning of that email because unfortunately it got cut off. This isn't about documentation or recording. This is about gaining an understanding of how this decision was made. I have little confidence in a person-to-person meeting with you because of the way I've been handled in the past. Troy, it's the way you've talked to me. You control the conversation and you manipulate the conversation to shut me down. If you want to engage in a conversation, I'd be happy to do that. But when you shut me down, it's enraging, and that's what your goal is, and it's worked for you in the past. You've got me mad, you've got me to give up, you've got me to blow my top. That's not going to happen anymore, buddy, because I've got this straight now. This in-person conversation would have been done 3 emails ago. Now again, at the end of this email is right up here. Here's, please, for the last time, will you just help me understand how what I witness is something that you are proud of and support? If that was your son saying he recently had a broken back and a policeman put over 100 pounds of direct weight directly on that injury, would you seriously be proud of the officer? Okay? Now the response that I got from that was, I'm sorry, I cannot help you any further. That's our Office of Accountability. Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, this is the kind of stuff that we get out of there on a regular basis. Please, okay, pay attention here. Okay? I sent him back. This is the last time we talk. I'm not going to be reaching out to him anymore. I've been clear and specific about my motivations. And just like the sergeant that mishandled the scene where I was arrested as the person who had been knocked out twice, just because I wasn't calm enough when they told me to calm down, Major Squire has created a journalist now. I apologize to anybody who thinks this is wrong, but what you're going to see in this video is wrong. And I'm just going to let it speak for itself. Here's where they try to pick him up. Do you hear him? My back is fucked up. And they set him back down. These 3 officers acknowledged the injury. Sergeant's driving by, they flash him down. I'll be putting up the original video and linking it in the description if you're having trouble seeing this one. But again, I'm not a videographer. This is the best I could do to get this information out. Now notice when Officer Daubert comes in, he immediately asks for the wrap. And do you see this man resisting? Alright, here's Daubert. Okay, I actually talked over that, so I'm going to back it up just a little bit so you can hear him. There's Sergeant Neff from the right side. Relax, relax.
Hey man, why is he? Hey, he wasn't even trying to fight you guys.
Now I'm going to stop it right there because I'll post the original video again, and I'm going to link it in the description. Given the totality of the circumstances of what I witnessed there, I have questions. I have questions that OPA has been unwilling to answer. I don't understand why. If they are proud of these officers and admire their performance, why not be open and transparent about it? LFK accountability out, and again, anybody that wants to get the documents and the video to actually produce this thing properly, just let me know.